It's been a few months since we delved into the world of 40k. Last time on this channel, we took a look at Chaos Gate Demon Hunters, a sequel to the still great Chaos Gate. It was honestly disappointing considering what came before it. Since I enjoyed the original Chaos Gate a ton, I figured we could look at another strategic simulations title with Warhammer 40,000, Rites of War. Instead of focusing on the Ultramarines, the protagonists in this one are the Eldar. As much as I enjoy the Space Marines, I do appreciate when other races get the spotlight. Will this be another underrated 40k gem, or is this better left in the past? When you start a new game, you can pick the banner of your army. Once you pick the army banner, you're given a briefing of your first mission, and here begins your war against the Imperial armies. You can listen to the briefing or go straight into making your army. You're given a set amount of glory points and only a handful of units to choose from at first. If you would like, you can also right-click on the unit to read up on a codex entry. Along with showing their stats, it provides interesting flavor text to learn more about the role of each unit and how they fit into the Eldar hierarchy. You will be back here after every mission configuring your army, so this will be a familiar sight. Once you're ready to go, you can start the mission and deploy your units in a select location. The first thing you'll notice with the battles is that everything is hex based. Most of the time, the mission objective will be to either defeat all the enemies or retrieve an artifact at a location. Similar to Chaos Gate, the objectives are kept pretty simple, although there are missions that try to mix it up with shorter turn limits as well as some other minor surprises. When you come across another enemy, you can attack it by basically clicking on the enemy to attack. If you have a ranged weapon and are in range, you can fire from there. If the enemy has a ranged attack as well, you will both receive damage. For melee units, you'll need to be right next to the enemy to attack. Sometimes units can break and will run away. It's a pretty simple system here that is made more enjoyable with the wide variety of units you can end up playing with. For example, I like to use my long range fighters to pick off melee targets while I have my melee fighters close the distance against ranged foes. It's definitely enjoyable, although it can get a bit repetitive seeing the same enemies over and over again. As expected, completing missions will unlock the next mission and you'll gain some more glory points to use on building your army. In addition, new units will be unlocked to recruit, which is a great way to entice players to keep playing. There are a ton of units to play with, so it's enjoyable to see what you'll end up unlocking. The game is ultimately linear, with no side missions to speak of compared to Chaos Gate. I was a bit disappointed we didn't have some random missions to participate in every once in a while, but it was probably done for pacing reasons. Still, it would have been a great way to test different army builds in a side mission versus throwing them in the fire for a main one. Similar to Chaos Gate, characters gain experience and level up as they survive in missions and perform admirably. This game takes it a step further with the ability to transform your units once they reach a certain level. This allows players to gain pretty powerful units early on. For example, I leveled up my basic Guardian unit into a Howling Banshee unit, then eventually it became a Howling Banshee Exarch. In essence, my bottom tier unit became one of my best units by surviving long enough and getting the occasional kill. It's honestly awesome and something I always look forward to. You can also purchase a strategy, which is a one-time bonus. Many of these are very beneficial, but I often didn't use them since my units performed more than admirably. I would say this game's biggest faults come down in unit balance. There are a ton of units to play with, but many of them I was unable to really create a role for them in my army. In addition, I had a pair of striking Scorpion Exarchs that ended up basically killing everything. Since they have so much movement range, they can close in on any enemy. Not only that, they also have no trouble taking down elite Tyranid units that other units struggled with. Another issue comes down to the overall difficulty of the game. Honestly, it isn't that hard to keep your units alive, especially if you rest your units to heal up. However, be prepared for random difficulty spikes with missions of units being sent at your location from all directions. Add in the fog of war that only really affects you, and it can really detract from the overall experience. Presentation wise, I definitely enjoy what I see here. These 90s style sprites have their own level of charm, and seeing Warhammer 40k units in this style is pretty cool in my opinion. The music is also pretty good, but it doesn't invoke the same 40k vibes that Chaos Gate was able to do. The music presented here is very triumphant and inspiring, but this could have been from any kind of game, let alone a 40k one. So yes, unfortunately, there is no Ultramarines chant equivalent here. Narrative wise, there are a few cutscenes that you'll come across, although most of the story is told through briefings. There's also a bit of an obvious twist that introduces the real enemies. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it's pretty easy to figure out if you know anything about the 40k universe. The voice acting for the briefings is honestly pretty good, but I didn't get too invested in the narrative of what was going on. It only really exists to move the game along from one mission to the next. If you want to just play missions outside of the campaign, you can within the War Room. This allows you to play single player scenarios as well as build your armies in the Army Builder. There is also a multiplayer option here, but I haven't tested it myself to see if a LAN party is still viable. Overall, I can recommend Rites of War, especially if you want some Eldar representation in your 40k video game experience. Building an army of Eldar units is fun, transforming your units into elite versions is enjoyable, and the battles are simple but effective. Unfortunately, it suffers from a lack of polish in certain areas, mainly in unit balancing and difficulty. It also suffers from getting repetitive midway through, similar to Chaos Gate. Honestly, I'm hoping for Rites of War can get a remake or a sequel in the future. Considering Chaos Gate was able to do so, it's not outside of the realm of possibility. Let's just hope they can do the Eldars justice if a studio decides to pursue this route. Thank you guys for watching as always, and this is Powerhouse, signing off.